Good evening, everyone. Good evening. All right, let's get some energy going. Good evening. All right, thank you all so much. My name is Akin Adepoju, and I have the privilege to serve as CDPL's Board of Directors President. And on behalf of the board and the entire organization, we want to say welcome to the 2024 Kirk Osborn Awards event. This event is not only a night for our community to come together to recognize the outstanding work that we do as a community, but also to highlight and recognize members of our community that have led the way in the very important work that we do every day. So first, I want to say thank you all for being here, being together, spending time together, being able to see old friends, meet up, have conversations outside the courtroom, outside of the settings that we normally do is incredible. This community is a very important community to me, and obviously a very important community to CDPL. I joined this community about almost 2 decades ago as a Kirk Osborn Fellow at the Fair Trial Initiative. And as a young punk lawyer, I'd walk down the hallways of CDPL looking for a lawyer, an investigator, a mitigation specialist that I can talk to, really to do my work for me and help me understand what's happening in my cases. And everyone has been incredible to me then and since. Not only in the organization itself, but throughout my both my fellowship and since, I've worked with many investigators, social workers, legal assistant, paralegals, and certainly attorneys across the state, from Pasquotank County to Cumberland County to Durham County itself and many other parts of the states. And the reception, the strength in this community is one that's wonderful. And truly, I want to applaud this community and for us coming together tonight. So a round of applause to everyone, please. Particularly tonight, there are people who have experienced firsthand the unnecessary cruelty of the law. People that have demonstrated resilience, strength, courage when they face the kind of unimaginable injustice that many of us can't even dream about, let alone experience. We typically have exonerees coming here, and tonight we certainly have one here tonight. So please let us recognize Ed Chapman, who is someone who has lived through unimaginable injustice, and him being here and exonerees coming to this event, it is just a powerful testament that reminds us of the humanity of our work and that we serve real people, not just cases, not just file numbers, but really real people. So please, let's recognize Ed. Is Ed here somewhere? I'd also like to take a moment to recognize the elected officials that are here tonight, both past and present elected officials, along with community leaders. Specifically, I'd like to highlight a number of them that I've seen and written down. I hope I didn't miss anyone. If I do, please let me know. Representative Renata Alston is here tonight. Yes, a very powerful friend and ally in this fight. Representative Marsha Mori, whom I had the privilege of appearing before many times. Honorable Pat Devine. Thank you, Judge Devine. Honorable Chris Brook. Honorable Dorothy Hairston Mitchell. Thank you all so much. Your dedication to both CDPL and this community, it's vital. It is important as you represent not just the best ideals of our community, but really what justice can look like in North Carolina and beyond. So again, thank you so much for your service and support. And I would also like to take this moment to recognize our past award winners that are present with us tonight. Thank all of you for setting a high standard of leadership and advocacy. And I would like to recognize some of those people who have spoken tonight that I've seen, and I hope I have not missed anyone. Terry Alford is here. I saw. Right there. Terry's here with his lovely bride, so please thank him again. Jonathan Brown is here. I think he's back there. He is one of those lawyers I bothered so many times as a young lawyer who taught me so many things. And of course, an important person here who's not only started this organization, but also someone that I've worked with on cases and still serves on our current board of directors, Anderson Hills. Please give a round of applause to Anderson Hill. And a leader, certainly in North Carolina and beyond, Ty Hunter. Miss Ty. Well, thank you all again so much. We are very, very, very grateful. Now, I'm obviously very partial to this group, so please, wherever you are, I would love for you to identify yourself. I'd like to recognize the incredible staff of the Center for Death Penalty Litigation. Please, where are you? Can you wave to us? You are the backbone of this organization. Your tireless efforts, and I'm talking both past and present, they're present here tonight. Your efforts really make a difference in not just people's lives, but what you do every single day truly improve life expectancies for so many people, not just your client, but also for the many people that you support. So again, a big round of applause for the wonderful staff at CDPL. Unfortunately, it looks like I don't have a list with me, but I do want to say a big thank you to our sponsors. Please, let's give them a round of applause. The sponsors are incredible because tonight and being together and spending time and really having the kind of good food and drink that, to really oil the meetings and the hugs and everything that we have wouldn't really happen without their support. Another thing I'd like to add regarding the sponsors is that this event, certainly in the last few years and almost every year since it started, it has grown. Not only in the number of the people that attend, but it has grown in the diversity of the people that we have that are attending this event. It is incredibly important that these events reflect our community. It reflects the diversity here. And because of our sponsors, I can also say this, that there is absolutely no one that wants to attend this event that is not allowed to attend because they couldn't afford to. So everyone that wants to come, they're welcome, and we make sure that happens. And certainly our sponsors making tickets available for those who are unable to afford it goes a long way. So please help me recognize them for making us a stronger organization, a more diverse organization, and certainly become more inclusive, not just in words, but in action, because that's incredibly important. So please shout out to our sponsors again. Well, finally, again, I just want to say thank you all for being here. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and being together is wonderful. And I got to say, you all look great, and it's good to be back in North Carolina. Thank you again.
Thank you, Aiken. It's great to have you here in person in North Carolina. I'm Gretchen Engel. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Death Penalty Litigation. Thank you all so much for being here tonight and making this a very special event, something that we look forward to all year long. I'm going to be introducing first the winner of CDPL's first Racial Justice Award. The racist roots of the death penalty are well known. And we can all agree that if you are involved in death penalty defense, you're involved in racial justice work. There's no separating racism from the death penalty. The two have been intertwined since the first enslaved people were brought to America 400 years ago. And even before we heard the powerful testimony presented at the RJA hearing this past spring in Johnston County, we knew there was a direct line connecting slavery, racial terror and lynching, and Jim Crow with mass incarceration and the modern death penalty. In recognition of the integral role racism plays in who faces the death penalty and who sits on capital juries, CDPL has created the Racial Justice Award. This year, we marked 18 years since the last execution in North Carolina. This respite from state-sanctioned murder for nearly 2 decades is the result of the work of scores of people, many of whom are gathered here tonight. For my money, I give a lot of credit to our award winner, the Honorable Gregory A. Weeks. More than a dozen years ago, Judge Weeks agreed to preside over the first evidentiary hearings under the Racial Justice Act. Judge Weeks was then the chief resident Superior Court judge in Cumberland County, and he was respected throughout the state as a wise and fair judge with an impeccable judicial temperament. When the national spotlight turned to the shocking murder of James Jordan, the father of a basketball player some of you may have heard tell of, Judge Weeks was chosen to preside over the case of the two young men accused in that killing. In the face of national uproar, Judge Weeks remained cool under pressure. Years later, Judge Weeks was the natural choice to hear evidence under the landmark Racial Justice Act. Judge Weeks held 2 evidentiary hearings in the case of 3 men and 1 woman under sentence of death from Cumberland County. He heard roughly a month's worth of evidence. Throughout, he lived up to his reputation for being prepared, even-handed, and unfailingly courteous and polite. He issued 2 meticulous, well-reasoned orders, finding pervasive discrimination in the selection of juries in death penalty cases all over the state. Yet, over and over, his professionalism was met with disrespect and attacks. Before Marcus Robinson's hearing, the state moved to disqualify Judge Weeks from hearing the case on the most spurious of grounds. Correspondence between the prosecutors, which we obtained through Public Records Act requests, showed what they were really concerned about was having a black judge. At the hearing, I've never seen a judge treated as disrespectfully as Judge Weeks was by the Cumberland County District Attorney's Office. And the North Carolina Supreme Court's reversal of his rulings on the pettiest of grounds likewise evinced incredible disrespect. In the case of 3 of the 4 defendants, the state won on an argument that it hadn't even raised. Vindication came in 2020 when the North Carolina Supreme Court, led by Chief Justice Beasley, reinstated the life sentences of the Cumberland 4. And I know the High Court of History will regard Judge Weeks with honor and admiration, as we are attempting to do tonight. Judge Weeks' dedication to racial justice and the empathy and compassion he displayed throughout his career come from his life experience. He grew up in a New Jersey neighborhood that was impoverished in many ways, but rich in culture and community. He was nurtured by caring professors at North Carolina A&T who persevered despite receiving substantially less support from the state than predominantly white institutions. He was a mill worker. He served in the United States Air Force during the Vietnam War. For several years, he represented indigent clients, including capital defendants, at the Cumberland County Public Defender's Office. He was never permitted the illusion of a colorblind society or justice system. I want to close with the words of one of our star witnesses at the Racial Justice Act hearing, Brian Stevenson, the founder of the Legacy Museum and National Lynching Memorial in Montgomery. I contacted him and let him know that Judge Weeks was going to be receiving this award, and this is what he had to say. Judge Weeks, whether you were a student, a lawyer, a judge, a teacher, or just a concerned citizen, you have always prioritized justice and equality over power and politics. You have spoken when the powerful wanted you to be quiet, stood when the privileged wanted you to sit down. You have modeled what it means to be steadfast and unwavering to justice and the rule of law. You represent something important, rare and precious in our nation, and you have inspired us all. Judge Weeks, if you'd like to come up, I would like to present you with CDPL's Racial Justice Award. Yeah, let me just read you. Let me just read you what the plaque says. It's the Center for Death Penalty Litigation presents the Racial Justice Award to the Honorable Gregory A. Weeks for his deep commitment to equal justice under the law for North Carolinians of every race. September 2024. Yeah.
Thank you.
You want to say anything?
Yes.
No, not this one.
Good evening.
as was mentioned, I grew up in the projects in the hood in New Jersey. Three men, two of whom happened to be quote unquote white, and one of whom happened to be quote unquote black. Grabbed me by the back of my neck on more than one occasion, took me to the guidance office more times than I can remember. And in the words of the hood, they jacked me up. I owe a debt that could never be repaid to their efforts and their kindness and love that was shown to me. And that has been my goal, to pass it on, especially to those who come into a system that preaches one thing and practices something entirely different. We don't have, in so many respects, a justice system. What we have is a just us system. And it crosses lines relating to gender as well. I was blessed to go to the Fayetteville Public Defender's Office. I had no clue at the time I got the job there that they had hookups with preeminent law firms all across the country. South Carolina, West Palm Beach, Cook County in Chicago, DC Public Defender's Office. We had a network of folks that helped us get through many of the capital cases that unfortunately we had to deal with in Cumberland County. My former boss was instrumental in the creation of this organization, Mary Ann Talley. So I want to tell you how much you are appreciated and how much you have accomplished through the work that you do. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Weeks. That's beautiful. And now we're on to the 2024 Osborn Award, which is given in recognition of outstanding advocacy in capital cases, training and mentoring of new members of the capital defense community, and leadership in indigent defense. So obvious are his qualifications for this award that many of you have said to me, how is it possible that Jay Ferguson didn't win this award years ago? Where to start in describing my dear friend and colleague of more than a quarter century? I'm going to focus on his fearlessness and his humility. Fearlessness first. Many of you began practicing capital defense in the last 18 years. 18 years of no executions and a relatively small number of capital trials. Let me take you back for a moment to the late 1990s, before the creation of IDS, before DA discretion, before open file discovery, and so many other reforms. We were having 60 to 70 capital trials each year, about half of which resulted in death sentences. Our current death row, the fifth largest in the country, is a product of that time. Nearly 3/4 of the people on our road today are people who were sent there in the 1990s. North Carolina was also executing people at an appalling rate. We were second in the nation for per capita executions. In that environment, CDPL asked Jay to represent Timmy Keel. Timmy had already lost in state post-conviction proceedings. In fact, he barely had state post-conviction proceedings because his initial set of lawyers missed a filing deadline and then submitted only a shell motion for appropriate relief. The same lawyers took these hopeless claims to federal district court, and it was at that point that we asked Jay to help out, knowing that the chances of relief for Timmy were slim to none, and the chance of execution was very high. Jay did not flinch. He took the case and all the heartbreak that it brought. The heartbreak of knowing about Timmy's 11-year-old son, who had marked on his calendar the date when Daddy dies. The heartbreak of witnessing the state take Timmy's life. Between late August and early December of 2003, North Carolina executed 7 men, and Timmy was the 5th. Some attorneys who represented people who were executed in those days sought other, less traumatic work, and I certainly don't blame them one bit. But I'm so grateful that Jay's response was to renew his commitment to fighting the death penalty, and to always do it with kindness, compassion, and respect for everyone, from his clients to the judges. Jay is also fearless in the courtroom. In the first RJA hearing before Judge Weeks, who took on the state's expert, a veteran hack who had assisted the state of Georgia in McCleskey versus Kemp? Jay, he did that. His cross-examination was devastating. In the second hearing, who took on the experienced courtroom prosecutor, whom we knew was esteemed even by Judge Weeks? Jay. After a lot of dodging and feinting about his strikes of black prospective jurors, there was this exchange with that prosecutor. Jay asked him, "When you asked that question of Mr. Murray, was race of the juror consciously in your mind?" The answer was, "I would say yes." In the most recent hearing, the trial prosecutor, Greg Butler, testified. Many of you know Greg Butler, a firebrand who's worked all over North Carolina, put lots of people on death row, some of whom were executed. Under Jay's withering cross-examination, Mr. Butler admitted that when he called our client Hassan Bakot a thug, he knew that was a racially coded term. Despite his consummate skills, Jay is not a limelight seeker, but he does have a servant's heart. Will you be on the board of PFADP and CDPL? Will you serve as president of the board? Will you present at an upcoming CLE? Will you work with a junior lawyer on a trial, on a post-conviction case? Will you help out in Arkansas, where the state plans to execute 8 people in 11 days? The answer is always yes. Jay is that rare person without ego. He champions those around him and is a generous teacher. He's incredibly gracious and always gives credit and thanks to others. Jay, I'm so grateful for your example, for your inspiration, your dedication, and your friendship. So I'll put our hands together and for this year's Osborn Award winner, Jay Ferguson. And I'll do it this way. And again, just to read the plaque, this is the Center for Death Penalty Litigation presents the J. Kirk Osborn Award to J. H. Ferguson for his fierce advocacy and unwavering commitment to indigent people facing the death penalty in North Carolina, September 2024. Yeah.
I'll start by saying that I'm absolutely thrilled to see all of you here today for a lot of different reasons. One of which is I know that if you're here, you have contributed financially to an organization that means so much to me, and more importantly, that means so much to North Carolina. You just heard about what happened in the 90s when we had over 30 death sentences, when people in the early 2000s, when people were lined up week after week after week for executions. Now we've gotten 18 years with no executions. And to a certain extent, and I'm just speaking for myself, not as a board member of CDPL, I think CDPL has become a victim of its own success. We've gone 18 years without an execution, which makes it harder to raise money. So I've got several asks, actually 2 asks of you tonight. The first is just remember that CDPL was in the forefront of all of those things that Gretchen mentioned about all the reforms in North Carolina to the death penalty process. Who was the driver of all those reforms? It was CDPL. And if we want to make that 18-year hiatus permanent, CDPL needs to be funded. And we are very thankful and grateful that you have given money. And I just ask that you continue to support CDPL. The other reason, another reason that I am thrilled for all of you to be here is because I get to share with you what is the most important part of my life, and that's my family. And I do want to introduce you. And with me is my sister, Danette. Raise your hand, Danette. My wife, Kay. And a lot of y'all know Kay because she's a mitigation investigator. And my daughter, Catherine. My daughter, Elizabeth, and her wife, Caitlin. And I would ask that, introduce yourselves. Don't tell anything bad about me, but just say hello. I can't tell you what an honor it is to get the Kirk Osborn Award. For those of you who knew Kirk, you knew a tremendous lawyer and an even better person. And that his loss can never be, the hole that he's left in this community can never be filled. We certainly, as a statistician, we certainly missed him in the Racial Justice Act litigation. So to receive an award in his name is very humbling. Also, what is very special for me personally is to be honored on the same night as Judge Weeks. I appeared before Judge Weeks 4 times in my career, and every time was just a pleasant experience. There are a lot of smart, intellectual judges in North Carolina, but there is only one judge with the intellect, the patience, the kindness, the compassion, and the judicial temperament is Judge Weeks. He is the pinnacle of judges in North Carolina. Some of you have heard me say what I'm about to say, so forgive me, go get another drink. And you could tell between Judge Weeks and me which one gets paid by the hour. I'm not going to be as brief as Judge Weeks. I have become obsessed with Martin Luther King's statement that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. I don't know why. I just can't get that out of my head lately. And so I was doing some research, and I, for the first time, realized he was not the first person to say that. The first person was a minister out of Boston. He gave it in a speech when they were trying to abolish slavery. So keep this in mind. Back in the mid-1800s, someone says the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. 100 years later, Martin Luther King's saying it. 70 years after that, we're still saying it. I think they were wrong. I don't think the arc of the moral universe bends towards justice. I just don't. I'm also mindful of Sir Isaac Newton's law of inertia. That says an object on a path will stay in motion on that path absent some external force. And what I want to say to everyone here is you are that external force. It's up to all of us to bend that arc towards our vision of justice. Our vision of justice is no death penalty, absolute abolition of the death penalty. Our vision of justice means stop putting children in prison for life. Our vision of justice is to fulfill the promise of equal justice under the law, without fear of favoritism based on race or socioeconomic status. That's our vision of justice. But the problem we have is that there are others who have a different vision of justice who are pulling just as hard in the other direction. They would love, prosecutors and politicians, present company excluded, would love nothing more than to restart executions, would like nothing more to go back to the days of 60 death trials a year. And what is staggering to me is that not only do these politicians and prosecutors tolerate racial bias in the criminal justice system, they are actively litigating to maintain it. And now I probably lost some of you and you're thinking, well, Jay's off the top. That can't be true. And what I would say to you is ask anyone who was involved in the Racial Justice Act trial, in Johnston County. Ask any lawyer that was involved in trying to stop State versus Tucker, that Batson case, to go to the Supreme Court, and ask them if the state is actively litigating to maintain racial bias in our criminal justice system. So that's our struggle. We pull one way towards our vision of justice, and we have people pulling the opposite way. And I want to speak some to the younger lawyers, the younger social justice advocates in the room. Those of you who have the majority of your career ahead of you. As my career is sunsetting, I'm relying on some of you to take over. There's going to be times, if you do this work for long enough, that you're going to get tired. I know that. And what I will ask you to do is to look around. Grab someone who has no hair or gray hair like me. We've been there. And we ask you to keep litigating. Don't drop out. So my second ask of everyone here tonight is I'm asking you to grab that arc of the moral universe, force it to our vision of justice, grab it hard and pull. Don't let go and never give up. Thank you.
Can we give another round of applause to our honorees tonight? We are so inspired by your work and by who you are in our community. I have the pleasure of saying thanks. So thank you. Thank you all for, on behalf of the CDPL board, on behalf of the staff, we are so grateful to you for braving what I thought was going to be bad weather, but it's actually turned out really nice, for being here tonight with us. Thank you for all the sponsorships you gave. I think we might have broken a record tonight in terms of our fundraising. Yay!
Tell them your name.
Oh, Gretchen told me to tell you my name. I'm Terica Redfield Gansey. Sorry, I know so many people here. I just started talking. I have the pleasure of serving as executive director of the Southern Center for Human Rights, and I am a longtime lover of the Center for Death Penalty Litigation, a longtime admirer of Gretchen and the whole team. And I've been thinking about what it means to have courage. And I look out across this audience tonight, and I think courage is you. Right? You are the change makers. You are the brave ones. You are the ones who are mentoring the next justice fighters. You are the ones who are co-counseling CDPL's cases. You are the ones who are visioning a new society and working to make it happen. And we are so proud to be in community with you. We are so grateful to you for everything that you are doing in this community and for the Center for Death Penalty Litigation. And we encourage you to keep on pushing, to keep on striving, to keep on believing in yourselves and in the Center for Death Penalty Litigation, because we are doing great things for this world in North Carolina. And we should all be proud, and we're going to keep doing the best that we can to make this world the world that is built on justice, that is built on mercy, that is built on compassion. So thank you all for being here tonight. We are so grateful to you, and we are so excited for the next things that we're going to be doing together.